Have you ever wondered why some families seem to thrive, while others fall apart, even when they have everything they need? What is the secret to maintaining a peaceful, strong family bond, especially as we age? If you've ever felt like your relationship with your children or your family dynamics has shifted over time, this video is for you. In this video, we're going to dive deep into the core issues that often lead to family conflicts, especially as we grow older. We'll explore how small actions, like constantly visiting your children's homes or overextending yourself to help, can create more tension than harmony. You'll learn why it's essential to live independently and respect boundaries for the sake of peace, both for yourself and your loved ones. But that's not all. We'll also talk about something that many of us ignore: taking care of our financial future and not relying on our children to support us in our later years. How can you stay financially independent while also being a supportive presence in your children's lives? This is crucial information, especially if you don't want to face disappointment later in life. And if you've ever struggled with the idea of balancing giving too much or too little to your family, you'll want to hear how the wrong decisions can actually drive a wedge between generations, rather than bringing them closer together. By the end of this video, you'll have a clearer understanding of how to maintain your independence, preserve your dignity, and ensure a peaceful family life. So, if you're ready to learn the simple but powerful habits that can keep your family bond intact, keep watching until the very end. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. If you are not subscribed, I recommend subscribing and activating the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support means a lot to me, and if you enjoyed this video, you can help me continue spreading the valuable lessons by liking and sharing it. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. First, don't always run to your son's house and live there. First and foremost, it's important to acknowledge a simple truth that many of us, especially as parents, often overlook. Don't always rush to your son's house and live there. I completely understand the desire to be around your children, especially when you're looking for companionship or simply feel like being part of their lives. But it's essential to pause and reflect on whether your presence is truly needed or appreciated at every moment. When you have some free time, it's easy to think that visiting your son's house will somehow fill the silence of the day. However, it's worth considering that your constant visits, though well-intentioned, might not always be as welcome as you think. There's something so delicate about the balance between caring for your family and respecting their space. When we visit too often or without understanding, it can lead to friction and misunderstandings. While you might think your presence will bring joy or warmth to the household, it's possible that it could bring discomfort instead. Think about it. Have you ever felt like you're intruding on a conversation or a moment that was meant for them to enjoy on their own? The reality is that your son and daughter-in-law have their own lives to live. They have their rhythms, their routines, and their spaces. And although they would never say it outright, it can sometimes feel uncomfortable for them when a visit becomes too frequent or unplanned. In their desire to be respectful and polite, they may hold back their true feelings, but deep down, the imbalance might create tension, subtle but noticeable. So, why should you burden yourself with unnecessary feelings of frustration or even guilt when you could simply enjoy a bit of time for yourself? Instead of continuously focusing on being in their space, why not take a step back and allow yourself the freedom to enjoy your own? It's okay to rest, to take a pause. When was the last time you truly relaxed without worrying about whether your visit to their house was needed? The simple act of making yourself a cup of tea, sitting down in your favorite chair, and watching a television show you love can bring a sense of calm and joy that we often forget about in the hustle of everyday life. It's such a small but powerful way to find peace within yourself. Why not embrace that time for you? It might not seem like much, but in those quiet moments, you can gather your thoughts, recharge your energy, and reflect on the things that matter most. I've noticed in my neighborhood a woman who seems to live for the moments she can spend at her son's house. Every chance she gets, she's there, convinced that it will bring some kind of happiness or connection to their lives. She spends hours there, perhaps imagining that it will fill some void in her own life. But what strikes me the most is how she leaves, time after time, visibly sighing, her face heavy with a certain sadness. I can't help but feel that there's an internal conflict in her that she's not sharing with anyone. She quietly laments about how uncomfortable she feels in the house, not because her son doesn't care for her, but because there's a disconnect. She unknowingly brings discomfort upon herself, and possibly to the family too, by not allowing herself the rest she needs. Each time she leaves, she reflects on why it never felt right. Why, despite the effort to bring joy, she always ends up feeling empty, like she's missed something important. It's heartbreaking to see because her intentions are good. She just doesn't understand that sometimes, the best way to show love is by respecting the boundaries and space of others. This brings me to a bigger realization I've had over time. The root cause of many conflicts within families doesn't stem from malice, but from the simple differences in living habits between generations. The older generation often has different expectations and needs compared to the younger generation. And when both sides don't recognize these differences, it can lead to friction. Living together in close quarters might seem ideal at first, but it's a situation where the unspoken tensions of daily life begin to take their toll. In my own experience, I've come to believe that living separately can bring peace. So much peace that it could reduce conflict by as much as 90%. This isn't just an opinion. It's something I've seen in the lives of people around me, and it's something I've felt in my own life. When my son got married, I realized that the best way for him and his wife to truly thrive as a family was for them to have their own independent living space. I had to accept that the day would come when he would no longer be living under my roof. As much as I wanted him to stay close, I knew deep down that this was an important step for both of us. My son needed the space to grow in his way, to establish his own rules and routines with his wife. I needed that space as well, not out of any sense of detachment, but simply to allow both of us to breathe, to rest, and to reconnect when it felt right. In this separation, there is a deep respect for each other's lives, and for the individuality of the people we care about. I often find myself reflecting on how we can live harmoniously in families, whether it's our parents, children, or even extended relatives. It's not about cutting ties or creating distance for the sake of distance. It's about creating a sense of respect for each person's space, allowing them to breathe, and to live their lives without feeling confined by others' expectations. When we give each other room to grow and develop independently, we make room for love, patience, and understanding to flourish. This peaceful separation is not the end of connection. It's the beginning of deeper, more meaningful connections. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. I truly believe that when you respect boundaries, when you allow your children and their families the space they need, it can bring so much more joy and peace into everyone's life. It's not always easy to accept, but in the end, it's the best way for families to thrive, grow, and to live together in harmony. Second, take care of your grandchildren according to your abilities. It is only natural to want to help your children, grandchildren, and loved ones. After all, they are your flesh and blood. You want to give them everything you can: your time, your knowledge, your care, and sometimes even your resources. Helping them gives you a sense of purpose and joy, and there is nothing more rewarding than seeing your children and grandchildren succeed in life. However, it is essential to remember that offering support should always be within your means, both physically and emotionally. We all have different capabilities, and as we age, those capabilities can shift in ways we never anticipated. This is something that many of us need to accept, no matter how difficult it may be. If you are fortunate enough to be in good health, and you have the time and energy to help, then by all means, do so. You may have the opportunity to spend time with your grandchildren, help with their homework, or simply offer them your companionship. These are gifts that will leave lasting memories, both for you and for them. Your children and grandchildren will remember the love and care you've shown them, and the moments you've shared will strengthen the bond between you. But it's important not to lose sight of the fact that you must never push yourself beyond your capacity. If you are well enough, helping out isn't a problem. It will feel rewarding, and it will be a joy to see your family thrive. However, we must always remember that our health, well-being, and peace of mind should come first. There are many grandparents who, out of love and deep commitment, will insist on caring for their grandchildren despite their declining health. They may feel a sense of responsibility or duty that drives them to take on more than they should. They may feel that they are the only ones who can step in and help, especially when they see their children struggling with the pressures of daily life. But the truth is, every time they offer their help, they may find themselves sacrificing their own comfort, becoming more fatigued, and in some cases, even harming their own health. They may push themselves to continue caring for their grandchildren, despite suffering from physical ailments, simply because they feel that it is their duty, or because they fear disappointing their loved ones. While this desire to help is admirable, it is also important to recognize that continuing to care for others when you're unable to do so comfortably will only result in exhaustion and frustration. Pushing beyond your limits, despite the strain on your body, will only make things harder for you in the long run. There's no shame in admitting that you can't do everything. In fact, it takes great strength to acknowledge your limitations. Your grandchildren, your children, and even your friends will appreciate and respect your honesty if you tell them that you need to take a step back to rest and recover. You've lived a long life, and you deserve the time to take care of yourself. It's a mistake to believe that you must always be the one to help, no matter the cost to your health. When you reach an age where your body is beginning to show signs of wear, it's essential to listen to your body and your heart. If you truly feel that you cannot offer the support that you once could, do not hesitate to express this. It's not a sign of weakness or failure. It's simply a reality of aging. If you can no longer carry heavy loads or chase after your grandchildren as you once did, it's okay to say no. If you need more rest, or if you can only help in smaller ways, that's perfectly fine too. You are not obligated to push yourself to the point of exhaustion just to meet expectations that may not be realistic. It's also important to understand that those who love you will understand your limitations. If your son or daughter-in-law is truly filial and respectful, they will not be upset with you for needing time to care for yourself. They will recognize that you've given all that you could, and they will support your decision to rest when you need to. As older generations, we've seen a lot in our lives, and we know the importance of love, family, and support. But we must also learn to embrace a certain wisdom. The wisdom that comes with understanding when to give and when to take a step back. We have been through our own struggles, and we know that life is not about giving endlessly without taking care of ourselves. We must set a good example for the younger generation by showing them that taking care of oneself is just as important as taking care of others. In the long run, our children will benefit more from us being healthy, happy, and at peace, rather than worn out and resentful. And so, we must learn to accept that our children's lives are their own. They will face their own challenges and joys, and they will learn how to navigate their own path, just as we did. We have raised them, and they have the tools to handle the world on their own. Our role is not to control their every move or burden them with our own expectations, but to support them when we can and offer advice when it is needed. But beyond that, it is essential to let them live their own lives. There is no need to demand anything from our children, especially when it comes to their time and energy. The most beautiful thing we can do as parents and grandparents is to offer our unconditional love, not as an obligation but as a gift. We should not feel that we must make demands or create unrealistic expectations. If we can help, we help with love and joy. If we cannot, we let go with grace and understanding. In the end, our children and grandchildren will not remember how much we did for them in terms of physical labor or financial contributions. What they will remember is the love we gave them, the wisdom we shared, and the example we set by respecting our own boundaries. We need to give ourselves permission to rest, to say no, and to focus on our well-being when we need it. After all, that is the most valuable lesson we can pass on to the next generation. That it's okay to take care of yourself, and that doing so ultimately helps those around you too. Third, rely on yourself. There is a truth, though difficult to accept, that one must come to terms with as they grow older. You cannot, and should not, fully depend on your children. No matter how deep the bond, no matter how much love and sacrifice you've poured into raising them, there will inevitably come a time when they may not be there to care for you in the way you hope or expect. It's an uncomfortable reality, one that can be hard to face, especially for those who have spent their lives nurturing, guiding, and protecting their children with the hope that they would one day reciprocate that care when the time comes. Many elderly individuals, after decades of giving, believe that their children will always be by their side, offering love and care in their later years. This belief is built on years of dedication and an emotional connection that, for many, feels like an unspoken promise. But here's the truth that life so often forces us to confront. Reality rarely matches up with the ideal. Today's younger generation faces an incredibly complex world. The pressures on them are immense. Career demands, financial burdens, relationship struggles, and societal expectations weigh heavily on their shoulders. Many are still trying to build their own futures, secure their own happiness, and manage the chaos of modern life. With everything on their plate, they may find it difficult, if not impossible, to give their parents the level of attention or support they might expect. And while this may be painful to hear, it is important to acknowledge. Many children, even if they love their parents, do not necessarily view taking care of them as an inherent responsibility. In fact, some may not see it as their duty at all. Their lives are full, their resources are stretched thin, and sometimes they feel overwhelmed by the demands placed on them. When you place all your hopes in your children, you open yourself up to inevitable disappointment. The greater your hope, the more intense the heartbreak when it is unmet. The sad truth is that children grow up, form their own families, and build their own lives. They may have their own ideas about what their responsibilities should be, and in many cases, their priorities shift away from the care of elderly parents. The emotional investment you've placed in them can sometimes lead to resentment, frustration, and feelings of betrayal if they are unable to meet your expectations. That is why you must learn the difficult, but ultimately freeing lesson: rely on yourself. Life doesn't promise that others will always be there for you, no matter how much you wish they would. We must come to terms with the fact that, as we age, we are often left with only ourselves to depend on. While it is important to nurture relationships and seek companionship, no one can be counted on to always fulfill the role of caretaker, protector, and emotional support. The older generations often pass down the wisdom of independence, but in today's world, this wisdom has never been more crucial. Being able to care for yourself, both physically and emotionally, is the key to true independence. Financially, mentally, and emotionally, you must learn to stand on your own. No one is exempt from this truth. It's not about shutting yourself off from others, but rather about empowering yourself to be resilient and self-sufficient. It is about being able to say, "I am enough, I am capable, and I do not need anyone to define my worth or determine my future." As we grow older, it becomes essential to develop the strength to face the world alone. Your children, even if they love you, may not always be able to meet your needs in the way you expect. And while this can be painful to accept, it is also liberating. By relying on yourself, you free yourself from the trap of disappointment and helplessness. You take back your power, your dignity, and your peace of mind. You no longer find yourself emotionally dependent on others, waiting for love or support that may not come in the way you imagine. In order to do this, it's necessary to prepare yourself, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. You must accept that no one will always be there to pick you up when you fall, to solve your problems, or to provide comfort in times of need. The sooner you accept this, the sooner you can begin to take control of your life, to build your own safety net, and to nurture your own happiness. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment below to let me know that you are still here with me. Relying on yourself means not just standing on your own 2 feet, but also developing the mindset that you are the master of your own destiny. When you can take care of your own needs, when you no longer feel like a burden to anyone, when you no longer expect others to complete you or save you, then and only then will you experience the true freedom that comes with independence. And with that freedom, you will find a kind of peace that cannot be shaken by the whims of others. There is great dignity in self-reliance, and there is profound strength in embracing it. You do not need anyone's approval, assistance, or validation to feel worthy of love and respect. You have your own worth, your own strength, and your own capacity to face the challenges of life. And when you finally embrace this, you will be able to walk through the world with your head held high, knowing that you alone are the master of your own life. Fourth, keep your pension and feel secure when you have food in hand. As we journey through life, one of the most important things we must learn is how to maintain control over our finances, especially as we grow older. Many people, unfortunately, make the grave mistake of depending on their children for support when they reach their senior years. This is not just a matter of comfort or convenience. It can have profound consequences on your sense of independence, dignity, and self-worth. When we surrender our financial autonomy, we also give up the ability to make decisions for ourselves, and this creates a very passive existence. Instead of being able to live freely and make choices that align with our needs and values, we become reliant on others, putting us in a vulnerable position. Relying on your children might seem like a reasonable option at first, especially when you're in need or facing health issues, but it's important to understand the risks involved. Once you give up control over your finances, it's not just your money you lose, it's your sense of self. The freedom to make decisions about your own life begins to fade, and you become increasingly dependent on others. Over time, this dependency can erode your personal dignity and lead to a life of frustration and helplessness. The burden of dependence is not just yours to bear. It's a heavy weight that falls on the shoulders of your children as well. It can create tension, resentment, and strain in relationships, something that no one wants to experience in their golden years. Therefore, it is crucial to take proactive steps to secure your financial future and ensure that you do not become vulnerable to this situation. One of the most valuable habits you can develop as you age is to keep a detailed record of your finances. This simple but powerful act will allow you to track every expenditure, no matter how small. By maintaining a clear financial record, you can gain a better understanding of where your money is going, where you can cut back, and how you can save more efficiently. This will not only help you manage your money better, but also give you peace of mind, knowing that you are taking control of your financial situation. For most of us, money is not just a means of purchasing material goods, it's our security. It provides a sense of stability and safety, a cushion against the uncertainties of life. When you have food in your hand, when you have the financial resources to meet your basic needs, you can live with a sense of calm. This financial security is invaluable, especially as we age and face various challenges, whether health-related or otherwise. The peace that comes from knowing that you can take care of yourself, without having to rely on others, is something that no amount of wealth or luxury can replace. It's also essential to remember that helping your children does not mean giving away everything you have. While it's natural to want to provide for your family, there must be a balance. If your children ask to borrow money, it's perfectly fine to lend them a little, but you should never, under any circumstances, give away your entire savings. Your money is the result of a lifetime of hard work, sacrifices, and planning, and it is your responsibility to protect it. Giving away all your savings may not only leave you struggling in the future, but also send the wrong message to your children about money management and responsibility. Teach them the value of financial independence and the importance of managing their finances. This lesson will serve them far better than receiving handouts from you. Another powerful tool for maintaining financial independence is learning about financial management, even if you're older. In today's world, it's not enough to simply know how to manage cash and write checks. Understanding smartphones, the internet, and digital banking is essential. These tools can help you stay in control of your finances and access information that will allow you to make informed decisions. Being financially literate, no matter your age, empowers you to stay independent and avoid being at the mercy of others, even in the face of technological advances. You don't have to become a financial expert overnight, but a little effort can go a long way in ensuring that you are making smart decisions about your money and your future. With this knowledge and confidence, you will be able to live your later years with a sense of dignity and peace. You won't have to rely on anyone else for your security or well-being, which is a truly liberating feeling. Instead, you can enjoy your life, make your own decisions, and live freely, knowing that you've planned for your future and are in control of your finances. There's a certain peace that comes with being self-sufficient, and it's a peace that is worth striving for. In the next video, I will be discussing a more sensitive and personal topic. As you grow older, you realize that after your children take these 3 things, your family will fall apart. This may sound harsh, but it's a reality that many families face when the balance between giving and receiving is lost. Understanding these truths is vital for preserving family unity and ensuring that your legacy remains intact. The decisions you make today will have lasting consequences on your relationships with your children and your loved ones. The most beautiful thing in life is to have a home that is a haven of peace and understanding, where every family member knows the truth and shares a deep bond of love and respect. But maintaining that kind of family takes effort. It requires long-term thinking, careful planning, and, above all, wisdom. We spend our entire lives working hard to provide for our families, and to ensure that our children are prosperous. We give everything we have to build a future for them. But as we grow older, we must learn to preserve what we've built. If we give too much, too quickly, we risk destabilizing everything we've worked so hard for. Families can fall apart if there is no balance and no respect for boundaries. Therefore, it's crucial to think about the long-term impact of your decisions, to be careful with how much you give and when you give it, and to ensure that you are always protecting your well-being and the stability of your family. In the end, financial independence isn't just about money. It's about the freedom to live life on your terms, with dignity and confidence. It's about protecting your future and the future of your loved ones, and ensuring that your family remains strong, united, and grounded in the values you've worked so hard to instill. Only by maintaining control over your finances can you preserve this sense of security and peace, which will allow you to enjoy your later years without fear or regret. First, after children take money from their parents, they start to become resentful. The painful truth that many families face today is the sense of resentment that often arises once children take money from their parents. This is an unfortunate reality, one that causes an unspoken emotional gap between parents and children, even when it is not immediately apparent. Parents, who dedicate their entire lives to raising their children, nurturing them with love, sacrifice, and care, often find themselves in their later years not only physically worn out but also emotionally abandoned. The bitterness that comes with this abandonment is unbearable, especially when it becomes clear that the only thing that keeps them relevant in their children's lives is the money they have accumulated over a lifetime of hard work. A poignant story found in The Surprise of Two Moments brings this reality to light through the life of a man named Chao Kuang, who lived in Zhejiang province. Chao Kuang was a man who had spent most of his life working tirelessly to provide for his family, saving every penny he could. By the time he retired, he had accumulated a small but respectable sum of several hundred yuan, hard-earned money that had been carefully set aside over the decades. When he retired, a new chapter in his life began, one where he hoped to find solace and comfort in the company of his children. He had lost his wife early, and the idea of living alone in his old empty house seemed unbearable. His 3 daughters, who had long been his pride and joy, welcomed him with open arms, offering him a place in their homes. His sons-in-law, seemingly eager to do the right thing, reassured him that he could live with them for as long as he wished and that they would take care of him in his old age. To Chao Kuang, this seemed like a godsend. After a life of solitude and grief, he thought that moving in with his daughters would bring him joy and security in his final years. What could be better than being surrounded by the love of his children? He decided to divide his savings into 3 equal parts and give them to his daughters as a gesture of goodwill, of trust. He believed that, after everything he had sacrificed, his daughters would reciprocate that love and care. But, much to his sorrow, the warmth he once felt quickly dissipated. Within just half a year, the same daughters who had once welcomed him into their homes began to make him feel like a burden. They no longer asked how he was doing, nor did they show genuine interest in his well-being. Instead, their words became sharper, their tone more impatient. "Dad, "Why don't you go out more? Why are you just staying at home?" they would say, as though his presence was a source of inconvenience rather than comfort. With each passing day, Chao Kuang began to realize that his value in their eyes had nothing to do with the love they once claimed to have for him. It was all about the money. His daughters, who had once praised him as a hero, now saw him as a financial resource, and when that resource was no longer in use, they began to distance themselves. The more he reflected on this, the more it hurt. It was a pain that cut deeper than any physical ailment. In the eyes of his children, he had become insignificant, a mere object whose worth was tied solely to the money he had once saved. It was only when they could see tangible benefit in him that they were kind, that they appeared to care. Without his money, he was nothing but an aging man, a person to be tolerated out of obligation. This realization, painful as it was, opened his eyes to the harshness of the world. He understood now that, in many families, relationships are not built on love but on what can be gained. When the elderly no longer have anything to offer, when their health begins to fail and their wealth is spent, they are cast aside like forgotten possessions. This situation is not unique to Chao Kuang. It's a reality that countless parents around the world, and especially in our society, have to grapple with as they grow older. The sad fact is that many parents only see the true nature of their children's feelings when they are no longer financially stable. In many cases, elderly parents are treated well only when they are seen as a source of support, a safety net. The moment they no longer have the means to contribute, the love evaporates. This is the cruel, transactional nature of human relationships, one that so many elderly people experience but few dare to talk about. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. The emotional damage done by this abandonment is immeasurable. I believe that if parents are still mentally sound, they should retain control over their finances. This is their right, their dignity. To give away everything they've worked so hard for, to transfer their property to their children, is not only irresponsible but also risky. It sets them up for exploitation, for a loss of autonomy, and ultimately, for a future in which they might find themselves destitute, both financially and emotionally. It's also a harsh lesson for us, as children. We often overestimate our importance in our parents' lives. We think they will always be there for us, that they will always support us, no matter what. But the reality is, once parents grow old, their strength diminishes, and their ability to contribute to our lives, whether emotionally, physically, or financially, becomes limited. Many parents do not want to be a burden, and they are often afraid to express their vulnerability, to acknowledge that they are no longer the strong pillars they once were. This vulnerability is something we must not take for granted. We must never forget that our parents gave everything for us, often at the cost of their happiness and well-being. The bitter truth is that some parents, after years of hard work and giving everything they had, are left feeling isolated and neglected. Some parents are even forced to make the heartbreaking decision of giving money to one child over another, all in the hope of maintaining peace and harmony, but this often backfires. The siblings begin to resent one another, and the once harmonious family dynamic is shattered. And then, there are those parents who are forever torn between their children, trying to balance relationships, trying to make everyone happy, but inevitably failing. No matter how hard they try, they cannot escape the harsh judgments of those who feel they deserve more than others. Children, on the other hand, can be just as callous in their reactions. The ones who are favored feel that their parents have given them too little, and they demand more, often without gratitude. The ones who are neglected feel that they have been robbed of everything and harbor deep resentment. In the end, both sides feel unappreciated, and the emotional scars left behind can last a lifetime. This cycle of neglect and misunderstanding is devastating. It creates rifts that might never heal, leaving both parents and children in a state of perpetual emotional pain. I can't help but feel that this situation is something we all must address before it becomes our reality. It's a wake-up call to cherish the people who raised us, to respect them, to honor them not for what they can give us, but for who they are. Money should never be the measure of love. It should be a bond that transcends material wealth. Parents, after all, are not just vessels of money. They are the very people who taught us how to live, love, and be kind. We should remember this, always. Wow, what an emotional journey we've gone through together today. We've explored some deep truths about family, relationships, and how money can often shape the way we treat the people we love. From the story of Chao Kuang to the broader issue of how we care for our elderly, it's clear that love is not just about what we give or receive. It's about respect, dignity, and recognizing the true worth of our parents and family members. So, what have you learned from today's video? I'd love to hear your thoughts and reflections. In the comments below, share one thing you've learned from this discussion that you'll bring into practice in your own life. It could be how you treat your parents, how you approach money, or simply the way you value relationships. If you like this video, please leave your comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Your support means a lot, and it helps us create more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.